Hi, this is TheHande, and these are my top 5 favorite cool gaming companies that aren't around anymore. Some honorable mentions: New World Computing and Toys for Bob. Special honorable mention to Sierra Online, though the company has technically made a comeback under Activision, which is why I couldn't really have them on here. But let's get on with it. Number 5, Sunsoft. If you were playing games during the heydays of the NES, Mega Drive/Genesis, and the Super Nintendo, you are bound to have heard of Sunsoft. This was a company that was known for pushing the limits of console technology with games like Blaster Master, and even won recognition for their Batman video game. Sunsoft both made awesome games and backed them by releasing ports of such titles as Spy Hunter, Flashback, and Myst. However, Sunsoft also published its fair share of crap as well. However, apart from Batman, I remember the company most for Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel for the Super Nintendo and Chameleon Twist on the N64. Unfortunately, Sunsoft simply couldn't transfer its gaming mojo to the 3D systems, releasing an ever-dwindling amount of games. Sunsoft is still technically around, but their most recent endeavor was a Mahjong game released for the 3DS in 2011. So it's fair to say that the Sunsoft of the past no longer really exists. Number 4, Bullfrog. Yes, Bullfrog were the champions of strategy-type titles on the PCs. They were best remembered for their theme series, which included Theme Park and Theme Hospital. However, by far my favorite Bullfrog title was Dungeon Keeper and Dungeon Keeper 2, which were two of the most clever and funny strategy titles I've ever played. Sadly, Bullfrog's fate was to be bought out by EA, who callously later turned Dungeon Keeper into a crappy mobile game years later. The type of world-building games which Bullfrog used to make are quite rare these days, surprisingly, and I highly recommend picking up some Bullfrog classics if you want to have a good time. Number 3, Hudson Soft. Hudson is probably one of the most sadly underrated video game companies in history, considering how long they were around and the fact that they directly played a hand in creating such awesome series as Bomberman and Mario Party. Hudson also created a bunch of other colorful franchises such as Bonk the Caveman, the Adventure Island series, and the Bloody Roar fighting game series. Basically, there wasn't a series or genre out there Hudson wasn't willing to try out. Sadly, Hudson Soft's undoing was its close relationship with distributor Konami, which effectively absorbed and then liquidated the company in 2012. Number 2, Gremlin Interactive. A name that may not necessarily mean much to most people, but I absolutely adored Gremlin Interactive. Remember when I said Hudson Soft wasn't afraid to try its hand at making various types of games? Well, they had nothing on Gremlin. This company made platformers, shmups, driving games, sports games, adventure games, and all of that without the endorsement from major publishers. Now, Gremlin's most notorious titles are their slightly off-kilter ones, such as Little Devil, released for PCs and the Philips CDI, but the company was also responsible for Zool, which apart from just being a Chupa Chups advertisement, was almost the unofficial mascot for the Atari Jaguar, as well as being an unusually popular platformer title for home computers. They also created the Actua series of sports titles, known as the VR series in North America, my favorite of which being the Actua Soccer series, and they even dabbled into adventure games with their kooky title Normality. Even if all of their games weren't necessarily great or groundbreaking, you have to admire the company being so experimental, whereas most companies will just find one thing they're good at and then keep milking it for all eternity. Despite being so prominent in the PC scene that they actually bought DMA Design at one point, sadly, like the previous entries on the list, Gremlin's fate was sealed when it became bought out by Infogrames in 1999. Despite becoming an in-house developer, the studio was shut down in 2003, having never published a single game under the company's flag. And number 1, LucasArts. Of course, LucasArts had to be on the list. Apart from the dozens and dozens of Star Wars games that came out over the years, the reason I of course remember LucasArts for are their iconic adventure games. The Monkey Island series, Loom, The Dig, Full Throttle, and Grim Fandango are all games everyone should give a try. And to be fair, there are some really standout Star Wars titles, even if LucasArts started churning them out on a conveyor belt pretty much from the early 2000s onwards. LucasArts' fate was also sealed when Lucasfilms, its parent company, became bought out by the Walt Disney Company. Luckily though, Disney has been pretty cool about the LucasArts IPs, and of course, there's a lot more Star Wars stuff due to come out. But I'm also happy that its titles like Grim Fandango and Day of the Tentacle are now starting to make a comeback in remastered versions. As all of you know, I love Star Wars and I love adventure games, so obviously, I have a lot of love for LucasArts. Please feel free to share your favorite defunct gaming companies in the comments below. I'm TheHande, and see you on the next one.